Imagine taking your car to a mechanic and instead of getting a quote, they hand you your keys back and say, "Sorry, we don't touch that one." No explanation, no referral, just a closed door. That actually happens more than you think. And if you own one of these 7 engines, it might have already happened to you without you even realizing why. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the engines that Australian mechanics quietly avoid, the ones that make experienced technicians shake their heads the moment they pop the hood. Some of these are popular family cars, some are luxury vehicles, and some are the exact engine sitting in your driveway right now. So stay with me, because what you're about to hear could save you thousands of dollars and a whole lot of frustration. Welcome to the Drive Intel, the channel where we give you the honest, unfiltered truth about the cars you drive and the industry behind them. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now because we cover the stuff other channels are too careful to say out loud. And if you have been here before, you already know we do not sugarcoat anything. Let us get straight into it. Before we talk about the engines themselves, you need to understand why mechanics refuse certain jobs in the first place. It is not always about skill. Most of the time, it is about time, liability, and the nightmare of sourcing parts for an engine that was poorly designed from the factory. When a job takes 3 times longer than it should, and the parts keep failing even after a correct repair, a smart mechanic learns to walk away. They are protecting their reputation, their workshop time, and honestly, their sanity. The engines on this list have earned their bad reputation, not from 1 or 2 bad experiences, but from a pattern of failures so consistent that word has spread across the entire Australian automotive trade. Let us start with the first one. The Volkswagen and Audi 2.0 TSI EA888 engine is probably the most well-known nightmare on this list. On paper, it sounds impressive. Turbocharged, direct injected, efficient, and powerful. In reality, this engine has given Australian mechanics more headaches than almost anything else in the last 15 years. The carbon buildup issue on the intake valves is legendary. Because this engine uses direct injection, fuel never washes over the intake valves the way it does in older port-injected engines. Over time, thick carbon deposits build up so badly that the engine starts misfiring, losing power, and running rough. Cleaning those valves requires walnut blasting, a specialized process that many general workshops simply do not have the equipment for. And that is just one of its problems. The timing chain tensioner on early versions of this engine is notoriously weak. It can fail with very little warning, and when it does, the chain slaps around and can cause catastrophic internal damage. Then there are the oil consumption issues, where owners are adding a liter of oil every 1,000 kilometers and thinking that is normal. It is not normal. Australian mechanics, who have been burned by this engine multiple times, often put a quiet policy in place. They will do basic servicing, but deep diagnostic or rebuild work on this engine, they pass it to a specialist or simply decline. Moving on to the next engine, this one is going to surprise a lot of people because it comes in a vehicle many Australians absolutely love. The Ford Ranger and Mazda BT50 both use the 3.2-liter Puma diesel 5-cylinder engine, and while it earned a loyal following for its towing ability and general toughness in early years, the later versions and high-mileage examples have developed a reputation that makes mechanics nervous. The EGR system on this engine is a recurring disaster. The exhaust gas recirculation valve and cooler clog up with soot, causing overheating, rough running, and in severe cases, coolant entering the intake system. When coolant gets into places it should not be, you are looking at a very expensive repair. Add to that the injector issues, the dual mass flywheel failures on manual variants, and the swirl flap problems in the intake manifold, and you start to understand why some shops have a quiet rule. They will service it, but they will not touch the EGR system or injectors unless they absolutely have to. The labor time blows out, the parts are expensive, and the comebacks are common. Now let us talk about an engine that became infamous almost overnight in Australia. The Holden Colorado and Isuzu D-Max 4JJ1 diesel engine. This engine has a known problem with injector failure that can send metal debris through the entire fuel system. When an injector fails catastrophically in this engine, it is not just a matter of replacing the injector. The entire high-pressure fuel system, including the pump, the fuel rail, the lines, and sometimes other injectors, can be contaminated with metal fragments. A proper repair on this engine after an injector failure can cost more than $15,000. Many mechanics have started refusing to even diagnose this engine when the customer reports rough running or injector-related symptoms, simply because the moment they open it up and find metal contamination, the customer gets a bill they were not expecting, and the mechanic gets the blame. There have been cases across Australia where owners were told the repair would be straightforward, only to find the bill climbing to eye-watering levels. At the Drive Intel, we have heard from dozens of owners in exactly this situation, and the common theme is always the same. Nobody warned them before they bought the vehicle. Here's another one that will raise some eyebrows. The Subaru EJ series engines, particularly the EJ20 and EJ25, are cult favorites in Australia. The Subaru community is passionate, dedicated, and honestly enormous. But even the most loyal Subaru mechanic will tell you off the record that the EJ25 specifically is one of the most problematic engines they work on. Head gasket failure is practically a rite of passage on this engine. The original multi-layer steel head gaskets were replaced in later years after widespread failures, but even the revised versions have issues under certain conditions. The problem is the engine's flat or boxer configuration. The cylinder heads sit horizontally, which makes gasket replacement a genuinely grueling job that requires pulling the engine or, at minimum, a massive amount of disassembly. Labor costs skyrocket because of the design, not necessarily because of mechanic incompetence. Many independent shops have stopped taking on EJ25 head gasket jobs because the customer always gets sticker shock at the quote, assumes the mechanic is overcharging, and the relationship ends badly. It is one of those situations where the engine design punishes everyone involved. The sixth engine on this list comes from a brand that prides itself on luxury and performance, and yet has managed to create one of the most repair-averse engines in the Australian market. The BMW N47 diesel engine, used in the 1 Series, 3 Series, and 5 Series between roughly 2007 and 2013, has a design flaw so significant that BMW actually faced class action over it in some markets. The timing chain on this engine is located at the rear of the engine, pressed against the firewall. In most engines, the timing chain is at the front, making it relatively accessible. On the N47, replacing a failing timing chain means the engine often needs to come out of the car completely. This turns what should be a moderate repair into a massive job. The chain itself is known to fail, sometimes as early as 100,000 kilometers. And when it does, it can destroy the engine entirely. Australian mechanics are deeply aware of this flaw. The moment a customer comes in with a rattling N47 diesel, experienced shops give them a realistic quote and watch the customer's face go pale. Many workshops have started advising customers to sell the vehicle rather than repair it, because the repair cost often exceeds the car's market value. Some shops simply refuse the job outright because of the complexity and the liability if something goes wrong during reassembly. And now we come to the seventh engine, and in many ways, this is the most controversial one on the list because it involves vehicles that hundreds of thousands of Australians drive every single day. The ZF 8-speed automatic transmission, paired with the Jeep and Chrysler 3.6 Pentastar V6 engine, has created a combination that Australian mechanics treat with serious caution. The Pentastar engine itself has known issues with rocker arm failures, valve train noise, and in some cases camshaft problems that show up well before a vehicle reaches high mileage. But the real headache comes when those problems interact with the ZF transmission's sensitivity to engine health. When this engine runs rough or develops misfires, the transmission can develop its own fault codes and erratic behavior, creating a diagnostic nightmare where it is genuinely unclear which problem started first. Australian workshops that have worked on multiple examples describe a pattern where fixing one problem reveals another and another, in a chain reaction that keeps the vehicle on the hoist far longer than anyone planned. Independent workshops without access to FCA-specific diagnostic software are essentially guessing in the dark, and that is a situation no professional mechanic wants to be in. So what does all of this mean for you as a car owner? First, it means that doing your research before you buy is more important than ever. The vehicles and engines on this list are not all bad vehicles. Some of them are genuinely capable and enjoyable when they are running well. But when things go wrong, and with these engines things do go wrong, the cost and complexity of repairs can be devastating. Second, it means that finding a specialist, not a general mechanic, is essential if you own one of these vehicles. A workshop that has worked on 50 of these engines is going to be faster, more accurate, and more honest with you about what the repair actually involves. Third, it means that extended warranties and mechanical breakdown insurance are worth taking seriously, especially on used examples of these vehicles. The difference between a $500 service and a $15,000 repair can come down to whether you have the right coverage in place. Here at the Drive Intel, we believe that knowledge is the most powerful tool you can have as a vehicle owner. The automotive industry does not always make it easy to find this kind of information. Manufacturers have marketing budgets, dealerships have quotas, but you deserve to know the truth before you commit your hard-earned money to a vehicle that could become a financial sinkhole. If this video has given you something to think about, or if you own one of these vehicles and want to share your experience, drop it in the comments below. We read every single one, and your story might actually help another viewer make a smarter decision. And if you know someone who is shopping for a car right now, please share this video with them. It takes 2 seconds, and it could genuinely save them from a very expensive mistake. Hit the like button if you found this useful, and make sure you are subscribed to the Drive Intel so you never miss the kind of honest, no-nonsense content that this channel is built on. We will see you in the next one.